You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Bible Guys.
Woohoo!
I am Chris Zarbaugh.
Oh, excellent. I was wondering who you were. I'm sitting here going, who is that guy?
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
And this is Jeff
Forster.
Jeff Forster.
The Jeff Forster.
Hey.
Actually, there's another Jeff Forster.
Is there?
Yeah.
Well, I would imagine
He's
so.
kind of a famous Jeff Forster in Minneapolis.
Huh.
Yeah.
There's a lawyer named Chris Zarbaugh in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Zarbaugh's not a common name.
Do you think he'd do well on The Bible Guys?
I don't know. Maybe he's a phenomenal guy.
That's what we should do.
He's an attorney.
We should get your attorney and my Forest Ranger guy.
Yeah.
And we can put them together.
Sure. That sounds like a really weird idea.
Okay. Or we'll just keep at it, I guess.
Yeah. So, hey, we are moving into a segment. We're going to read for you a very important piece of news.
Yes. So I just lost it, by the way. Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Let me find it.
Yeah.
Let me go back here. There we go. So do you know what's your favorite Christmas song?
My favorite Christmas song
Yes.
is "Oh, There's No Place Like Home for the Holidays."
Okay. How nice. Bing.
So no matter how far away you roam.
Is that Bing Crosby?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really like the song "Mary Did You Know."
Yeah, well,
you like that song?
That's one route to go.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Well,
I love that
what
song.
I'm saying is you're making me look bad because yours is.
I like Jesus
yours
songs.
is a Jesus song.
I also like Bible verses, so there's a, there's some controversy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think our fans and our listeners, they know that we only bring the most important news and the finest news.
Of course.
The most trustworthy news.
It's
from the most trustworthy sources.
It's who we are, Jeff.
That's right. And so what is the most trustworthy source we know of?
The Babylon Bee.
The Babylon Bee is what we feel like is the most.
Yes.
I mean, they set the bar so high on quality news and information.
It's way better than CNN.
You can trust it.
Yes.
Or any of them for that matter. Okay, so Babylon Bee, if you don't know, is a satire website. It's hysterically funny. But the headline is "Popular Christmas Song, Mary Did You Know, Criticized for Mansplaining."
Which is so funny to think about. If you know the song, which I'm sure most people
Mary,
know the
did you
song,
know
right?
Yeah,
it's really funny. Yes, it's really funny.
Someday walk on water.
Mary, are you aware? Hey, let me ask you for the 19th time in the song.
Yeah. Well, do you have the lyrics? Do you have the lyrics to this song?
I could definitely bring that up really quick.
Yeah. Because, I mean, that's really important for if a person doesn't know the song, Mary, Did You Know?
Okay, Mary, oops. I hate when it does that.
Yeah,
I hate when it does that.
Me too.
Mary,
It's these very complicated machines we hold.
Lyrics.
There you go.
Okay. So basically, here's what it says. Mary, did you know that your baby boy will one day walk on water? Mary, did you know that your baby boy, well, sons are saving daughters? Did you know that your baby boy has come to make things new? That the child you delivered will soon deliver you? Mary, did you know that your baby boy will give sight to a blind man? Mary, did you know that your baby boy will calm a storm with his hitch? Did you know that your baby boy? That's all it does.
Yes.
It goes all the way through, and it just keeps on asking, which is hilarious.
So with that in mind,
Yes.
that Mark Lowry, who, by the way, very funny Christian comedian,
Very funny,
sang with the Gaither Vocal Band for years and years and years. He wrote the song.
Mm-hmm.
So members of the United Evangelist World Faith Missionary Alliance Church voted to remove the song "Mary Did You Know" from their library of songs members of the church could sing karaoke style during Christmas services after coming to a consensus that the song is pure mansplaining.
Yes.
Quote, "Every line is a man condescending to a woman, assuming she doesn't know anything about her own baby," said Margie Hall, chairman of the church board. "The fact that this song was written and originally sung by a man just makes my skin crawl."
Oh my goodness. You know what? They're making fun, but I could actually see this being an actual thing.
Oh, absolutely.
In 2024, absolutely.
Do you think Margie Hall has a nose ring?
No, I do not.
No, okay.
I do not.
The original performer and writer of the song, comedian and vocalist Mark Lowry, commented on the controversy by explaining his position in a condescending and overconfident tone.
Yes.
Lowry has also been accused of man-spreading. His defenders are few, but those who have come out in his favor are commonly accused of himpathy.
Empathy.
Lowry has been encouraged to write a new song titled "Mary, Sorry, I'll Shut Up and Do Better."
That's so great. That is so good.
So I had no idea that was so, because, there are a lot of Christmas song controversies.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is a new one, and we just wanted to throw our hat in the ring and saying, hey, we endorse all controversy.
Yeah, that's right. We endorse all controversy.
Big fans.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Okay.
You know, there is almost nothing worse than cancel culture.
Cancel culture is the worst.
It is.
I think we should cancel culture.
Ooh, I cancel it right now.
Cancel it. That's
I
right.
declare bankruptcy. Do you remember that?
No.
On The Office?
No, I don't remember.
Oscar, his financial advisor, said that he has to declare bankruptcy. And he said, hey, did you ever consider doing that? And he's like, yeah. And he didn't understand what it meant. So he walks out into the office publicly in front of all his employees. And he goes,
Oh, that's right. I remember that. I remember that one.
Bankruptcy. And he shouts it. And he's like, that's not what declaring means, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny. Anyway. All right, let's move on.
I don't even know how to transition into this next one.
Oh, gee whiz, we forgot about the transitions, or at least I do all the time.
I did.
Speaking of mansplaining, Solomon has to mansplain to all the fools in life.
Yeah, an entire book of life hacks from a mansplainer.
Yes, because the people like me and others who have to get mansplained to, we really appreciate it. That was a pretty weak transition.
That was
but there
rough.
You go.
That was rough.
It was rough.
Well, one of our goals was really bad transitions.
Well, there you go.
That may have set the new bar. Right there.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we're in chapter 23, right?
Yes.
And it says, while dining with a ruler, pay attention to what is put before you. If you're a big eater, put a knife to your throat. Don't desire all the delicacies, or he might be trying to trick you. Don't wear yourself out trying to get rich. Be wise enough to know when to quit. In the blink of an eye, wealth disappears, for it will sprout wings and fly away like an eagle. Don't eat with people who are stingy. Don't desire their delicacies. They are always thinking about how much it costs. Eat and drink, they say, but they don't mean it. You will throw up what little you've eaten, and your compliments will be wasted. Don't waste your breath on fools, for they will despise the wisest advice. Don't cheat your neighbor by moving the ancient boundary markers, and don't take the land of defenseless orphans, for their Redeemer is strong. He himself will bring their charges against you. Commit yourself to instruction. Listen carefully to words of knowledge. Don't fail to discipline your children. They won't die if you spank them. Physical discipline may well save them from death. Wow. So he's saying the opposite.
Right.
My child, if your heart is wise, my own heart will rejoice. Everything in me will celebrate when you speak what is right. Don't envy sinners, but always continue to fear the Lord. You will be rewarded for this. Your hope will not be disappointed. My child, listen and be wise. Keep your heart on the right course. Do not carouse with drunkards or feast with gluttons, for they are on their way to poverty, and too much sleep clothes them in rags. Listen to your father who gave you life, and don't despise your mother when she is old. Get the truth and never sell it. Also, get wisdom, discipline, and good judgment. The father of godly children has cause for joy. What a pleasure to have children who are wise. So give your father and mother joy. May she who gave you birth be happy. O my son, give me your heart. May your eyes take delight in following my ways. A prostitute is a dangerous trap. A promiscuous woman is as dangerous as falling into a narrow well. She hides and waits like a robber, eager to make more men unfaithful. Who has anguish? Who has sorrow? Who is always fighting? Who's always complaining? Who has unnecessary bruises? Who has bloodshot eyes? It's the one who spends long hours in the taverns trying out new drinks. Don't gaze at the wine, seeing how red it is, how it sparkles in the cup, how smoothly it goes down. For in the end it bites like a poisonous snake. It stings like a viper. You'll see hallucinations, and you'll say crazy things, and you'll stagger like a sailor tossed at sea, clinging to a swaying mast. You will say, they hit me, but I didn't feel it. I didn't even know it when they beat me up. When will I wake up so I can look for another drink? Yeah, very descriptive. You'll stagger like a sailor tossed at sea.
Right. Right.
Right? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So, am I reading this right? This could be like one of the coolest metaphors. Like it's like artistic. Even it's verse number 23. Actually, 22 and 23 seem to go together. Mm-hmm. It says, "Listen to your father who gave you life, and don't despise your mother when she is old." And then it says, "Get the truth and never sell it, along with wisdom, discipline, and good judgment." So, is that he's not literally talking about selling a piece of information, is he? I think that the way I'm reading it is it's like this cool metaphor of, like, for instance, if your father hands you like a family heirloom, like a brooch with a diamond in it, he's saying, well, you'll sell that, just for temporary gain. And he's saying, let me tell you one thing that you'll never, don't ever do, is don't ever let go of truth and compromise it by gaining, like, let's just say, like, like you compromise your integrity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like a metaphor of, like, saying it's just as if selling something off for something temporary. Don't ever let go of wisdom and truth for a temporary compromise. So it's like, it's metaphoric is how I'm reading it. Is that, or is it literal?
So it says, in verse 23, King James says, because that's what I grew up on, right? King James says, buy wisdom and sell it not. And I can remember my dad talking about that passage, and he said the sell it not part could have been translated, don't pawn it. Right?
Yeah. But that still sounds pretty artistic. So
that's That's the idea, though, is you get a hold of something and it's doesn't have the same value to you, right, as maybe the thing that it could get you. So you pawn it so that you can go get something else. What he's saying is there's nothing you can possess that's more important than wisdom.
Yeah. So I love it. I love that. I love that analogy because, even today, here we have, a group of people listening who thousands and thousands of years later, we can completely relate to that concept. Yeah. Right. And when you pawn something, you take something typically of really, really good value and you pawn it off for way less than what it's worth, and you lose it. Right. For the most part. Almost everybody loses it, right? And so, pawning it is just a terrible concept.
And usually we take something that we could keep for a long time, we pawn it, and it's usually so we can pay for something that's going to be temporary. Right. Keep the lights on. Right. Make one more monthly payment on the car, something. Right?
Yes.
And that's what he's talking about, is we're often tempted to trade in the strength and permanency of wisdom. We'll trade it in for something temporary. That's that's really solid, isn't it?
Yeah, that really is cool. I like that because, again, it's you can hang on to that word picture in your life, and everybody knows what it's like. Well, even if you don't know what it's like, you can get your mind around it anyway. It's pretty cool.
There's so many places that are challenging us to pursue wisdom, make wisdom the principal goal of our life. And we know that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, certainly. So that's going to require that we step into a real relationship with God. And then wisdom is the thing that will carry us through. Wisdom is the thing that will help us overcome all of the struggles and the problems. And here he also adds, along with getting the truth and don't ever sell it. So we need truth. And then he says, get wisdom. Discipline Discipline, quite honestly, is making the right choices, right? Because our natural inclination is not to want to always do right. Our natural inclination is to please ourselves. And so discipline would be, no, I'm going to make the best choice, not the funnest choice, right? And is funnest a word?
No, I don't think it is.
Most fun.
Most fun, yeah.
Most fun, yeah.
Yeah.
And then good judgment, which good judgment really is, that word usually is translated as discernment. This ability to know how to apply wisdom is what that is. So truth sets us up for, if we apply truth, wisdom, right? Wisdom is applied truth. And then discipline is the focus and the character necessary to actually live out that wise thing. Discernment is knowing how to apply wisdom in our life. So
right,
it's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. And then also there's this other, like, I don't think it's a literal thing. I think it's a more like a word picture where he says, don't eat with people who are stingy, don't desire their delicacies. They're always thinking about how much it costs. So stop right there. And it's like, have you ever been around people that are that way? You can just tell, and so, like, being a guest of theirs, and they may have a really nice place, but just being around it is just I've been there. I've lived that experience. And he says, eat and drink, they say, but they don't mean it. And it says you will throw up what little you've eaten, and your compliments will be wasted. I also think of that as poetic.
Right.
I literally don't think they mean because they're stingy, you're going to vomit up the food, right? Like, that's not literal, right?
Right. It'll make you sick to your stomach, kind of a thing.
Yeah. And your compliments will be wasted. It's just, It's really cool. This is a very poetic book for, this chapter anyway. Mm-hmm. It's really cool. Don't waste your breath on fools, for they will despise the wisest advice. Yeah. Don't waste your breath on fools.
I have nothing more to say about that.
Right. But have you ever tried to
Oh, yeah.
talk wisdom into a fool? Mm-hmm. And you can just, go on and on, and it's like, wow, they're going to have to learn this the hard way. Have you ever been convinced of that?
Oh, 100%.
Somebody will walk out of your office or, leave a conversation, or maybe they're a part of your family and you're thinking, extended family, hopefully, and you're thinking, this person's never going to listen to everything that everybody around them is saying.
Right.
Yeah, that's awful.
Right.
Yeah.
Then there are a number of warnings about illicit relationships. Now, you remember, this is Solomon, King Solomon. He's writing a lot of these things to his son. He mentions it in multiple chapters. So this is a man talking to another a young man. Right. There are immoral men out there too that lead women astray.
Correct.
But in this situation, he's usually writing to his sons. Mm-hmm. Right. Don't forsake the teaching of oh, my son, don't forget my teachings, or son, make your
do not forsake the instruction of your father and your mother.
Verse 26. Oh, my son, give me your heart. May your eyes take delight in following my ways. And then immediately afterwards, he says, a prostitute is a dangerous trap.
Yes.
Right? So he's talking to his son.
Yes.
He's not saying that women are bad and men are good.
Right.
He just happens to be talking to a boy right now.
Yeah.
So if this was mom talking to a daughter, say, hey, watch out, there's some really bad men out there going to try to take advantage of you.
Right.
So that situation.
And he's describing what in that day especially would be promoted as a dangerous trap. So, like, for instance, like...
Well, it's also a dangerous trap in this day, too.
Yes, I understand. But I was going to try to put a little bit of a distinction, right? Yeah. So, so it's, in the United States, it's illegal, right? It's illegal. But in that day and age, it was very much a accepted part of culture, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And that's the big difference between the son, who's he's saying, okay, this may seem acceptable, but let me promise you, it's not.
Right. That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
And I just brought that up, the fact that he's talking to his son, and that there are bad men out there too, because every once in a while I'll hear somebody say that the Book of Proverbs is a really sexist book, but I would just point out, a dad talking to his son, this is not unreasonable.
No, not at all.
In the same way that a mother talking to her daughter saying, hey, watch out, there's bad men out there. It's the same.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the warnings are, it's as dangerous as falling into a narrow well. Falling narrow, you can get stuck, can't get out, kind of thing, and you're going to die in this situation. And then often, I was
thinking narrow well would be easier if you can climb up, if it's that narrow.
Unless you were stuck, like, you couldn't move your arms at all.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty narrow well.
Well, yeah. How narrow is narrow, Chris?
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. But it says she hides and waits like a robber, eager to make more men unfaithful. It's amazing how often those temptation things are so, they sneak up on you, and next thing you know, this vice just takes over your life that you never planned on. You thought you were okay. You were okay the first 3 or 4 times, and then all of a sudden it just starts to take over or whatever. That's that idea that all these kinds of sins tend to hide and wait like a robber, and they're eager to ruin our lives. And so that's a big part of it. And then he pivots from that into alcohol, right?
Yeah.
Which is a big one, especially particularly with, he's talking about drunkenness here. But they're funny phrases. Who has anguish? Who has sorrow? Who's always fighting? Who's always complaining? Who has unnecessary bruises? Who has bloodshot eyes? Right? I remember when I was working in Chicago, we had a guy that lived on the street, totally consumed by alcohol, and he was constantly complaining about stuff. He was constantly, stumbling around, always looking for a fight, ready to fight you for no reason, right? You ever kind of just walk down the street?
Yes.
This guy's just kind of out of his mind kind of thing. The descriptions, he's writing to his son again, and what he's saying is, hey, this is what happens. You see that kind of guy? And, one of the things that I feel like my parents did, we went to church in the city of Flint, which, at the time was a pretty rough. Matter of fact, Flint was, back in the 80s, one of the murder capitals of the U.S.
Yeah.
There was a lot of drugs, a lot of violence. It was always either Detroit, Flint, or St. Louis, right? Were the three big cities.
Well, and Youngstown.
Yeah. And so my parents...
Hey, by the way, real quick, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Did you know that Youngstown was so high on murder back when, I always tell those mafia stories, about people blowing people up in the cars? That it was actually nicknamed Murder Town, USA, and it made the front page of like the USA Today because apparently in the post office somebody from Texas mailed a letter, like an actual snail mail letter, and for the city just put Murder Town, USA, and it made it to the address in Youngstown.
Wow.
So the people in the post office knew what they meant,
right,
and it made it to that address.
Wow.
Anyway, go ahead.
Is that crazy?
Yeah, go ahead.
So anyways, what you see him do here is he's saying, hey, watch out for see that prostitute over there? Watch out. That's going to ruin your life. Then he says, hey, see that guy that's fighting with everybody and walking around just wailing and crying and struggling, and he's stumbling around like he's a sailor tossed on the sea, and all these things. Solomon is using real illustrations.
Yeah.
To point things out for his kids. And my mom and dad would do that. My mom and dad would always say, I can remember one time, this was a really big thing for me. I remember the first time I saw a grown man with wet pants. He wet himself.
Wow.
Right? Stumbling down the street, yelling, being weird. And my parents pointed that out. My mom says, that's what happens to you when you give yourself over to some chemical that takes over your mind and body. And she said, we always have compassion for them. Maybe he has some kind of a depression or some kind of problem and he's trying to drink away his problems, but it doesn't make it better. Look, so whatever issue that's driving him to alcohol does not make his life better. Right. And it's not going to make your life better either. And so they would always say, we need to have compassion for people who are struggling. There's never they're gross and we're good. It was always how sad is this? That otherwise, that's somebody's son. And now he's living on the street and he's wetting his own pants and he's out there swinging at the wind and stumbling down the street. Don't be that, right? And so I always had this sense that we should help and find a way to help them, not judge, but at the same time learn real lessons. And I think that that's one of the things that we read yesterday about, train up a child in the way he should go. One of the things you see Solomon doing is using real illustrations of real circumstances to point out for their own kids, hey, this is a learning lesson. Don't go down that path.
Right. That's great. Well, hey, that is just about our time. And what a great chapter.
Yeah.
And so we're going to continue on in Proverbs, and hopefully you'll join us for the journey tomorrow on the Bible Guys.